Hi, hello everyone, and I'm here today breaking down the top 5 cards for both Emerald and Sapphire today. Coming in at number 5 for Emerald, we have Genie on the Job. This card's a 6-drop. It cannot be inked. Pretty huge downside. I know I say this every time, but pretty big downside. Has a power and toughness of 3/4 and can quest for 2 lore. Has the ability Evasive, which means that only other creatures with Evasive can attack this creature. Genie has one more ability that when Genie on the Job enters the battlefield, you can return a creature on your opponent's side of the battlefield back to their hand. Now, again, the extra ability that Genie has is what kind of puts him on this list, which is when you play this character, you get to return another character to its owner's hand. So pretty much you're playing Genie out and returning one of your opponent's really expensive creatures back to their hand, pretty much destroying all the work that they did on their previous turn. Coming in at number 5 for Sapphire, we have Ariel, Who's It Collector. This is a 4-drop that can't be played in your Inkwell, has power and toughness 3/3, quests for only 1 lore, but each time you play an item, you can ready this character. Now, this is kind of a weird card to include on the list because this card really isn't seeing a ton of play right now, but I think as the card pool for Lorcana expands, we're going to get more and more powerful items, especially in Sapphire, because we already see quite a few good items in Sapphire. And I think the ability to untap Ariel every time that you play an item is just going to rack you up a lot of value in longer games. Coming in at number 4 for Emerald, we have Mad Hatter, Gracious Host. This is a 5-drop that can be inked. It is power and toughness 2/4 and can quest for 3 lore, which is pretty crazy. You're gonna see a lot of these Emerald cards questing for a lot of lore, and a lot of Emerald decks in the meta right now are being built around this kind of mid-range lore explosion where you're dropping these 3 to 5 drops that are just questing for a lot more lore than what you're gonna be able to get from creatures in other colors. And Mad Hatter also has an ability that whenever he is challenged, you get to draw a card. So it's a really good curve topper in a mid-range deck. Your opponents already have to attack because they can't leave you with a creature that's questing for 3 lore each turn, but is going to help you refill your hand with more cards. Coming in at number 4 for Sapphire, we have a ramp card. There's a lot of ramp cards in Sapphire, but right now this is my favorite. It's Fishbone Quill. This is a 3-cost card that can also be put into your Inkwell, and it has an ability where you can tap it to put a card from your hand into your Inkwell. Kind of other than just the ramping ability, this lets you put some of your expensive uninkable cards into your Inkwell by getting around the rules of having to be an inkable card. Coming in at number 3, we have Flynn Rider, Charming Rogue. This is a 2-drop that can be put in your Inkwell, has power and toughness 1/2, so a bit on the fragile side, but quests for 2 lore, and has the ability that when this character is challenged, your opponent discards a card. So your opponent, again, like we've seen over and over with these Emerald creature cards, your opponent has to remove them because they're questing for so much lore, but your opponent's getting punished for attacking them. Coming in at number 3 for Sapphire, we have Kevin's favorite song from his favorite movie. Let It Go.
Let it go. Let it go. Remember the words that you didn't know.
This is a removal spell similar to Dragonfire. However, when you remove your opponent's creature, you're putting it into their Inkwell. So you're ramping them, but this card has the ability to be put into your own Inkwell if you don't need a removal spell. So it kind of balances out the downside by being inkable, unlike Dragonfire. Coming in at number 2 for Emerald, we have our first creature card that really doesn't have any special abilities, and that's Han's Scheming Prince. This is a 4-cost card that can be inked, has power and toughness 3/3, and quests for 3 lore. It's just a very all-around good card that doesn't really need any abilities tacked on. It's kind of like the Mario version of a card. Like, you know, in Mario Party, Kevin, or in Smash Brothers or Mario Kart, where Mario just kind of would have every single ability like straight down the line at 50-50. Coming in at number 2, we have Belle, Strange But Special. This is a 4-drop that can be inked. She has power and toughness 2/4, and she can quest for 1 lore. She also has the ability that lets you play an additional card into your inkwell each turn to help you really rack up your inkwell. And she has another ability that once you get up to 10 ink in your inkwell, she then quests for an additional 4 lore, questing for 5 lore each turn. She's going to end a game very quickly, if not answered. It's clear to see why this card commands such a high price tag, especially in foil.
In perfect condition foil.
Perfect, even probably slightly
used,
scratched cards of Belle that are legendary foils could probably be sold for a good amount of money.
Millions.
But there is a limit to the amount of damage a card could sustain and still be usable.
Good thing that's never happened here.
Guess how many Belles are in my collection, Kevin?
I'm going to take a Wild Step in the Dark. I don't have any context for this or anything like that, but I'm going to say 0.
Yeah, 0. I'm sure I'll open Belle eventually.
And you'll be happy that day.
Yeah, I will. Not traumatized at all. Coming in at number 1 for Emerald, we have Kuzco, Temperamental Emperor. This probably comes to no surprise to anyone. This card is just bonkers. A 5-drop that can't be inked, has power and toughness 2/4, quests for 3 lore, continuing this tradition of Emerald cards questing for a bunch of lore. Has the ward ability, which means that it can't be targeted by spells. Also has an ability that when this character is banished in a challenge, you can banish the challenging character. So, like all the other Emerald characters that we've seen before, requires an answer but punishes your opponent for answering it. Coming in at number 1, we have Hades, Infernal Schemer. This is a 7-drop that can't be inked, has power and toughness 3/6, can quest for 2 lore, and has a kind of similar ability to the Dragon Maleficent, which is you get to remove an opposing creature. And similar to Let It Go, you put the creature in your opponent's inkwell. So same downside as Let It Go, where you're ramping your opponent, but I think that matters less once you're getting to the point of the game where you're playing 7-drops. Well, that was the top 5 cards for those colors. And we are not doing this generically to save time. This was specific for each of the 3 videos. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and slap the bell, ring the bell, ding the bell, click the bell.